Are you desiring a birth that will be intimate between you and your partner, but you want to make sure you have enough knowledge for the big day? You are not alone if you are feeling like this. Maybe not wanting to hire a doula, maybe wanting not to have anybody extra in the room, but you and your partner. This is over half of the families that I work with, and it's a very possible thing to do if you know what to do. So in this video, I am going to break down how you and your partner can have all of the knowledge and tools that you need to have and achieve the birth that you're desiring with just the two of you. Hey mama, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chanel, and I help families go from a place of feeling really unprepared, overwhelmed, and unsure of where to actually even start to have a natural birth with just their partners, to going to a place where they're walking into birth feeling confident and equipped and empowered and excited to have the birth that they desire with the tools and the knowledge they need to make this a positive, beautiful, and intimate birth experience. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button below and that notification bell so that you get the tools and the knowledge and everything that you need for the big day. Now, this is a little bit of a different video than I normally do because it is becoming very apparent in so many of the consultations that I'm having with potential clients of what they actually need. And so I thought it would be a good idea for me to just kind of have a conversation with y'all and hopefully give you some helpful tips. If this is you fall into this bucket of, I really want to just do this with my partner, but I want to make sure that I have the knowledge from a doula as if a doula was in the room, and I want my partner to play that role. And what I'm hearing a lot, the more calls that I'm on with potential clients and people who end up becoming my clients, is that they want to have that experience where it's just the two of them. They don't necessarily want additional people in the room. They want the partner to play that main daddy doula or professional partner role. But they want to make sure that their partner is actually equipped, and they want to be confident in their partner to do what they need to do to keep them comfortable and manage labor as well as possible. And as a birth doula, you may be wondering, why is Chanel actually having this conversation with us when everything I know about a doula is somebody being in the room with you? And yes, that is true. There are so many statistics that show the positive outcomes of births with doulas in the room. However, the majority of my clients tend to not fall under this category. And the majority of my clients are having positive, natural, unmedicated birth experiences without having an extra body in the room. And it is because we do the work in pregnancy to prepare them for their births. And this work means preparing you and your partner to know what your particular roles are in labor. Because the reality is, mama, you have a very particular and specific role to birth your baby. And that is different than what the role of your partner is, because they have a very particular role in actually supporting you, keeping you comfortable, making sure that they have the tools to advocate for you. There's so many things that they do that have nothing to do with what you do. And there are so many things that you do that have nothing to do with what they need to do to make sure that this birth stays the way that you want it and that you achieve as close to the experience that you're looking for. And here's what I've learned from having 3 births of my own and helping hundreds of families have the births that they desire in the intimate experience that you also may be desiring. Number 1 is that birth is 80% mental and 20% physical. And I will get a lot of hate in the comments, I already know, for saying this thing, because a lot of people experience it on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. But the reality is, it is 80% mental, if not more. And that is because this experience starts with our minds. Think about the process of intimacy with your partner. Your mind will tell you whether or not your body's going to enjoy the experience. If you are not in a good mood, you guys just got in a fight, and that experience, that intimate experience of sex happens, there's a good chance it's probably not gonna feel that great. It may not hurt or be painful, but it's probably not gonna be as enjoyable as if you guys have this intimate experience, you're bonding, you're connecting, you're having a great time, oxytocin is flowing, the love hormone is flowing. It probably will feel much more enjoyable for you and for your partner in that experience. That is just one small example of how the mind impacts the body. The same thing is true in labor. Now, I'm not saying that if you have a painful experience in labor or that it is not pain-free that you're doing something wrong or that your partner is doing something wrong. But what I have seen and personally experienced is that birth is 80% mental, 20% physical. And a big part of what we see between mama and partner, what I've seen in my personal experience and how I coach my clients, is that if mama does not feel confident in her partner's ability to support her, it can impact the overall experience of labor, including the physical aspects of labor. If they are trying to do this whole thing by themselves and they do not trust their partners or can lean confidently on their partners, or their partners are not able to really understand what's going on in the process and they have to do all the thinking for their partner, it makes the labor process and experience a lot more overwhelming, a lot more challenging, a lot more difficult, and a lot less enjoyable of an experience, and none of us want that. So it is important to do the work in pregnancy, for you and your partner to do the work in pregnancy on your minds, to really become mentally and spiritually prepared for this experience. Here's a second thing that I have learned as a doula supporting families. A doula cannot birth your baby for you. And as much as I love birth, and I would love to give birth to your baby for you, I physically cannot. It is not my job to do. My job as a doula, whether I'm in the room with you or I'm not, is to equip you, empower you, educate you, to make sure that you and your partner have the tools that you need to accomplish and achieve the thing that you're trying to do. A doula is meant to support the laboring family. That means we can advocate for you. That means we can provide you comfort measures. That means that we can educate you so that you know your rights and your options. That means that we can help you understand or see things that you may not be able to see because people are speaking a lot of medical jargon and you're not understanding those things. But here's what I've also seen. I've also seen the fact that you can learn all of those things as well. You and your partner can learn how to advocate for yourselves. You can learn what your rights and options are. You can actually learn the medical jargon and what's actually being discussed, or what somebody may be coercing you or trying to coerce you through fear to do so that it works into their convenience. These things are possible for you and your partner to do. Not only that, but also keep you comfortable, provide comfort measures and all of those things. And what I've learned after years of doing this work is that, yes, having another body in the room for some families makes the most sense, and it is exactly what they want and what they need. But there's a whole nother set of families who feel like if you just give me the tools, if you just tell me what I need to do and you help me practice it, then we can go execute this on the big day with no problem. I just need somebody to walk with me hand in hand, step by step, give me all of the things that I need to know, and we can go do this on our own. And they feel empowered through that experience. I've seen hundreds of families actually have the experience that they desire by themselves. So it all depends on your personal preference, but the reality in all of this is, whether you have somebody in the room with you or not, you still have to give birth to your baby. And the other biggest key takeaway that I have learned from this experience and what I've seen work in my clients is that your partner can become that professional partner or that daddy doula, just for the reason that we just talked about. All you need is the knowledge. All you need are the tools, but you need somebody to tell you how to do that. But unfortunately, we don't get a lot of those tools. Let me tell you from personal experience, from our providers, because we don't have enough time in our appointments to do that. Hospital birth classes are not going to equip you with all of the things because you can't cover that in 2 hours. And the reality is, most of the things that you will run into in a hospital setting, especially when you have to really work hard to advocate for yourself, are not going to be necessarily handed to you or given to you, because sometimes that puts the power in your hands. And that's where the power should be, but that's not where the power often lies, because that makes it less convenient for the professional. So your partner can be daddy doula. I have graduated so many daddy doulas out of my Work Your Birth program, and we are continuing to do that. So much so that we've had dads who have caught their own babies at home in a car. Not because we were trying to do that. That was not the goal. But babies decide when they want to be born and where they want to be born. And those partners were equipped and confident to catch their own babies without the assistance of anybody else, and the birth was amazingly beautiful and intimate, and they did it by themselves and they were not afraid. So those things are possible, and I'm not steering you away from hiring a doula, but I am saying that if you desire an intimate experience without a doula or another person in the room, it is absolutely possible to do that. So let's actually talk about how that happens, because I do think it's important to have this very vulnerable and transparent conversation about what this actually looks like. How can you and your partner actually become equipped to know how to have this very intimate birth experience between the two of you, be confident in the process of that, and actually have the steps that you need throughout your pregnancy to get to the place that you want to be for birth, to have this natural birth experience. And these are the things that I work through with my clients. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, go down below and we'll schedule a call. We'll talk through what your birth goals are so I can see if I can actually help you throughout this journey. But I want to just walk you through, like, how do we actually do this? And why is this important? Because so many people aren't going to tell you this, but we already know that you can do what you already have the power to do. You just need to learn how to do it. So we're going to go through 4 steps and 4 ways that you and your partner can be prepared to know how to do what your body already knows how to do. The first step is identifying what your birth goals are. Discuss this with your partner. Mama, you may have this whole vision about what you want this birth experience to look like, and it is so clear in your mind. You could paint a picture. You could write a script about what you want this birth experience to look and feel like. But your partner may have no idea what that looks like, and you may not actually have a clue of what they want this birth experience to look like. Yes, they're not birthing the baby, but if you want them to be engaged in an intimate part of this experience, they have an opinion too. So I highly encourage starting, number 1, with talking and discussing what your birth desires are. Are you wanting an out of hospital unmedicated birth? Are you wanting an in hospital unmedicated birth? Do you want to labor at home as long as possible? Do you want it to be quiet, dark, warm? Do you want to be dancing throughout labor? Do you want labor to be fun? Do you want labor to be serious? Do you want it to be a spiritual experience where you are worshiping through the whole thing? Do you want it to be something where it is dancing to Beyonce throughout the whole time? Talk about what you want and hear how they desire to support you, because then together now we have a picture of what we're actually working towards. An unmedicated birth is a goal, but it's not specific enough. And yes, we understand that things can change in birth. That is not what we are discussing right now. We are talking about our ideal birth scenario, because what we will eventually do, what I eventually do with my clients, is we're preparing for this ideal scenario. That is our North Star. And so many of my clients hit the North Star. But we're also going to prepare for what happens if that North Star doesn't happen. What if we have to like hop down to plan B? Or what if we have to hop down to plan C? We're going to have a plan for that too. But for the sake of the first step, it's talking about the ideal scenario for the both of you. Have a clear picture so we know, okay, we're going to start there. We're going to backwards plan from that vision. The second step in getting the birth that you desire with just your partner is asking yourself, what are the biggest challenges or roadblocks that are stopping me from achieving this birth outcome? We've already painted the picture. We already have the vision. Now we have to figure out, okay, what's holding me up from that experience? Am I feeling uneducated? Do I have no idea where to start? Do I want somebody to just give me the step-by-step knowledge to just help me get there faster? Avoiding mistakes, avoiding trying to Google my way to this birth, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube my way to this birth. What are the roadblocks? Am I afraid? Do statistics scare me? Have I been surrounded by family and friends who have had really negative birth experiences, so I don't even have an example of what something like this could look like? What are the roadblocks? Is it that my partner is really busy and we don't really have a ton of time together, but I want to make sure that both of us get the knowledge? Is it I need somebody to walk alongside of me? Is it I'm only with my provider for 15 minutes and they're great, but they might not be there on the day of, and I want to make sure that I know everything that I need to know, even if they're not there? Think through what those roadblocks are, because once you identify those roadblocks, then we can start to create solutions to those roadblocks. Do we need to cut people out? Do we need to hire a coach? Do we need to switch providers? Do we need to identify some of our fears and work through some of our fears? Do we need to pray more? What are the things that could be solutions to the roadblocks that you have, because what I guarantee is that there is a solution to almost every single one of your challenges or roadblocks, but we have to figure those out so that we can overcome some of those challenges with support so that you are not trying to figure this all out on your own. Take it from me, do not try to figure this out on your own, especially if you've never done this before. I tried to take that approach as a first-time mom, and it left me with nothing but birth trauma. And I know this is not every single person's experience, but it is more people's experience than not, which is why birth is portrayed in such a negative and scary and painful light by so many people, because so many of us walk in unprepared. We take a hospital birth class and we think that's enough. We read the What to Expect book and we think that's enough, but the reality is it's not. It does not prepare you for the realities of giving birth in society in the United States. It's just not preparing us. And if it was, then we wouldn't even be talking about this in this video right now. So make sure that you really fine tune the challenges with your partner so that we can actually figure out the solutions to them. The third step in achieving the birth that you desire with you and your partner is figuring out what education or what coaching are you going to receive to help you achieve your goals smarter and not harder. Because y'all, we're working smarter, not harder. This is not a competition as far as like who can figure it all out on their own. Like, that is not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. Again, please trust me from experience. It is not worth it, because there's probably something that you're going to miss, and there's probably something that you're not going to even know that you should be searching. If you are searching it, you might be getting it from an unreliable source. And that's the last thing that you want to be doing. Is it going to be reading a ton of books to make sure that you understand how to advocate, what your options are, how to write birth plans, how to actually move in labor, how to become mentally, spiritually prepared? That may be a lot of books, but if you're a reader, that might be perfect for you and your partner. As long as both of you are going to read all the books together and discuss them together, then that might be the perfect fit for you. Maybe it's taking a bunch of classes individually to make sure that you're hitting on all the topics. Maybe you take a hypnobirthing class, maybe you take a hospital class, maybe you take all these other classes. So that may end up being, I don't know, 5 to 10 different classes to really make sure you're hitting on all of the things. Maybe you hire a doula, and that's where you end up going because you want to have that support, coaching, guidance, and then they end up being with you on the day of. Maybe that's the best option that you and your partner discover. You could also have somebody who coaches you throughout pregnancy. This is exactly how I support my clients. Many of my testimonials are the families who have gone through this Work Your Birth program. And it might be easier for you to have one-stop shop. I created the program that I needed in my first pregnancy to avoid the birth trauma, to help me prepare to avoid the C-section, to have a natural birth, to be comfortable, to be mentally, physically, spiritually prepared, to have the plan A, plan B, plan C, to learn about life after baby, breastfeeding, preparing for postpartum, getting everything in one place so that you don't have to feel overwhelmed by like trying to find it all in these other different places. And I walk my clients literally every single week hand in hand to help them both prepare for labor. This is a program for you and a program for your partner because you both have very specific roles, as we talked about earlier, and you both will learn your specific roles and how they complement each other in labor. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, let's schedule a call, check all the links out below, and we will walk through what your birth desires are. Literally some of these questions that you're working through with your partner right now, we will discuss those and figure out how do we backwards plan to get you to the place that you need to be by the time you go into labor and both of you feel equipped and confident to do just that thing. And then the fourth step to making sure that you and your partner are prepared together to have the birth that you desire is practicing what you have learned. It's not enough to just go to a class or just read a book. You have to practice what you have learned, because if you're going to execute this and if you want this to become natural and you guys are working seamlessly together on the day of, it requires practice. Just like anything else in your life, you need to practice before you play. So as you're learning things, whether it's from all of the books that you read, whether it's from all the classes that you take, whether it's going through Work Your Birth, you gotta practice it. Practice it with hopefully a reliable resource. Practice it with each other. Practice it with yourself so that it becomes natural for you to hop back into that when labor happens. The thing that most people get afraid of is forgetting everything on the day of. And the reason that most people forget everything on the day of is because they haven't practiced it. So they're like, oh yeah, I know what an epidural is. Oh, I know what Pitocin is. Or like, oh, I know how to squat during labor. And then labor rolls around and they're like, wait, what am I supposed to do? How do I squat? What did she say in that class again? And you're like flipping through the notebook. No, like that's not the time to try to figure out what you're supposed to do. Yes, you may need to like look at something as a refresher because you're not gonna have every single thing memorized, and that's totally fair. But there is an opportunity for you to practice, and that your partner is not looking at and freezing up, freaking out on the day of because they're just seeing you go through the contractions for the first time. Like they should be the ones keeping you in your birth zone. But they can only do that if none of this seems new to them. It is new because it might be the first time, but it shouldn't be like, oh my God, I didn't know this was what it was gonna be like. I was not prepared for this. No, y'all should feel prepared. You should feel prepared because you've seen it before, you've practiced it before, and you're aware of it because you've worked through it together. And you can be prepared if things change without completely retracting or reversing or regressing from the things that you've learned throughout your pregnancy journey on the big day. Research shows that 10, 15 years down the line, you will remember your birth experience, not because of how you gave birth, but because of how supportive or engaged your partner was in the process of you giving birth. It is important that they are a part of this journey, but they know how to properly be a part of this journey based on what you want, based on what y'all want, and based on what you've worked together because you made the baby together, so you should birth the baby together. And I just want to leave you with this one last birth story to pull it all together and to give you a real example of how one of my clients was able to do this and had all the praises and accolades of this one particular hospital. And they were very, very adamant about having this really positive birth experience. The partner was so excited to just become a dad. He was so excited to be engaged. And mom was like, I trust him 100%. I just need to know that he knows what he's doing with this. I trust him. I know that he's going to protect me. I know that he's going to care for me, but I also need to know that he has these skills. So we worked together throughout their entire pregnancy. And then when the big day came, they killed it, y'all. They did their thing. In the whole labor experience, they labored at home as long as they could, and then they were like, okay, it's time to go to the hospital. They got to the hospital. I can't remember how far along she was, but she was pretty far along by that point. So they're like, okay, cool, we're gonna have this experience, it's gonna be great. The nurses were in the room and dad was like on it. He's like, okay, mom, like we're gonna do this now. We're gonna be in this position. He saw how her body was moving. He understood stations. If you wanna understand stations, I have a whole series on this that you can check out. But he understood stations. He understood how mom's body was moving and what positions and movements she needed to be doing. And he was like on it, daddy doula all day, every day. And the nurses were like, well, you look like you have it under control. We're just gonna check some vitals and we're gonna let you guys keep doing your thing. You need anything from us? Nope. Okay, great. Let us know if you need anything. Like they were just in the motion. They were in the rhythm. They were just in sync with each other. It was so, so beautiful to watch. And down the hall, there were obviously other families that were laboring. And the nurses were like expressing to these families after the fact that these dads who were in the room were asking like how to plug in their Fire Sticks and how to plug in their Apple TVs so that they could be entertained for themselves while their wife or partner was in labor. And they had never seen a dad like my client be as engaged as he was. And mom was so comfortable. She's like, I felt so good throughout this whole experience because I knew that I had somebody who knew what they were doing and I could focus on what I needed to do, which was focus on my body and my baby. And I knew that he was keeping me comfortable and that he would speak up for me and answer the questions that I needed him to answer so I didn't have to answer them for myself. Got to the pushing phase, smooth as butter. He coached her through the pushing. He coached her through the breathing. He knew exactly what to do. He was like, you got this, babe. You got it. You're so strong. He's affirming her through the whole thing. It was so beautiful. And at the end of this birth, the nurses were like, we've never seen that before. We've never seen a dad, a family, a couple be that in tune with each other. It was the most beautiful and amazing thing to watch. And so I want to leave you with that story and just encourage you that this is possible. This is absolutely possible when you are educated, you are empowered, and you are prepared. Because you know how to speak up for yourself. You know how to move your body. And you know if you work through your mental and spiritual aspects of preparing for this moment, that you both can do what you need to do to achieve this experience that you're looking for. You just need the tools to do it. So if that is something that you are empowered or excited about even learning about, schedule a free call with me. We will talk for 45 minutes and just talk through what your goals are, what your desires are, and help you get to this place smarter, not harder. All right, y'all, that was a totally different video for me. I want to just be real with you, and I want to make sure that you guys have all the things that you need, but also like giving you and talking to you about the things that most people aren't going to talk to you about on YouTube or on Instagram or TikTok, because it doesn't necessarily follow like what most people are thinking is necessary to prepare for birth, or how to actually do this between the two of you. So I hope this video was helpful. If you did find it helpful, hit that thumbs up button, and I'm curious, in the comments, let me know what excited you the most about this. What excites you the most about giving birth with just your partner? What makes you the most afraid about giving birth with just your partner? And let's talk about that in the comments and see how many of you are probably sharing some of the same concerns or sharing some of the same excitement, and let's support each other as we get to the finish line to meet our babies. All right, y'all, that's it for me. I will see you on the next video.